Surprised you, huh?
We'll go on the right front row.
Hey, Coach.
Good to see you.
Good to see you again, Coach. AP Stedham, AP and Kelly, as we see at syndicated radio. Coach, you have a couple things with your offense and defense and special teams that are mandatory that you get to have a better season.
Well, I think it starts with, anytime you're talking about an offense, and I would tell you that I had no idea who my 5 starting offensive linemen were going to be. That's an unsettling feeling, no matter where you are as a coach. We know who our 5 are going to be. We think we've got really good depth there. We've developed that offensive line. I think it starts there. I think it starts up front on the offensive line when we're talking about productive offenses week in and week out. Now, you've got to have playmakers. Let's face it. You have guys that have to make big plays because you can't go 3 yards, 4 yards, and win games. You have to score points in any league, and in particular the SEC. So to me, it starts up front, and then guys that can make big plays on the perimeter. Tie that into experience at the quarterback position. And I think you now have the makings of what you need on offense. Defensively, to me, it's been, right down the middle of your defense. Look, I think we all have gone to games. If you can't stop the run, you might as well go back to the concession stand because this is going to be a long day. So you start with being strong up the middle. And that means obviously the defensive tackle play, the middle linebacker play, the safety play, right down the middle of your defense. You have to build it there first and then work outside. To me, that's always been the way I've put together and constructed. And then you need selflessness on your football team to be really good in special teams. You've got to have your best players be part of special teams. It can't be a unit of second and thirds wanting to overachieve and be great. You've got to have your best players being selfless and understand how important it is to be part of special teams. Those would be, in a nutshell, how I would construct and put together offense, defense, and special teams.
Left side, front row.
Coach, 3 previous coaches at LSU have won national championships. Certainly no pressure, of course, but what is it about this institution that provides, kind of an infrastructure to do that?
Unapologetic commitment to wanting to be excellent, both in the classroom and on the football field. I think a lot of universities sometimes want to apologize for wanting to be good at both, and I don't quite understand that sometimes. It takes resources, no doubt, but it takes, I think, a vision that says we want to do both. We want to be great in the classroom. We want to be great on the athletic fields. LSU wants that. That's the bar. I knew that, and that's why I wanted to be the head coach here.
Left side, third row.
Brian, obviously every program is different, but what do you think are some of the factors that make for a successful transition year that like the one you guys had last season? What are some of maybe the intangibles that have worked well that have you seen in an early stage of a program?
Well, I think we had a good plan coming in, and the plan really started with understanding where the air was coming out of the tire. What were our problems? You have to sit back and assess where are our problems, and most of our problems were self-inflicted wounds. We had to clean up the things internally. We had to be more accountable. We had to have better attention to detail on a day-to-day basis. We had to be more committed to our academics. All those things carry over to what you do on the playing field. You're not going to forget your assignment. You're not going to miss out on the things that you're supposed to do in a timely fashion. So I think that's the first thing, and then you got to have your players clearly buy into that, and then hold them to that standard. A consistency of that approach is mandated, and if you don't, I don't think you can get that kind of quick transition.
Right side, third row.
Jacques Doucet, WAFB-TV. What's been the next step with Jake Flint and the strength and conditioning program during the summer? And no breaking news, it's hot in Louisiana in the summer, but this summer's been even hotter than usual,
Yes.
It seems like. So have they been out there working, and what can you tell me about that?
That's a great question. I think in year two, you start to work more on the individual and the development of the individual. We were laying down a program, a strength and conditioning program that was something that they weren't used to. And so I think as you get into year two, you become a little bit more focused on some of the workouts as they relate to position groups. Wide receivers, a little bit different than defensive linemen. Quarterbacks, obviously different than defensive backs. So we've been a little bit more targeted there. And then we've been extremely careful with the weather. As you know, we like to train outside. We want to acclimate our players to the outside. But we've been very careful with our runs. So one day a week we have our runs. We've moved those runs to an earlier time to make sure that we don't put our kids in a compromising situation. But you're absolutely right. Year two has definitely been a focused year for us as it relates to making some training adjustments to the particular position groups.
Left side, second row.
Dan Peck, ESPN 106.7 in Auburn. Coach, what is similar and what's different about recruiting to LSU versus the other places you've coached in your career?
Well, I think I can tell you what's similar. What's similar is that the calendar has changed so dramatically that it's making it almost a year-round proposition. We hosted official visits through the month of June. That had never been the case. I think we're doing close to 44 out of the 52 weeks or 7-day weeks now in terms of our schedule. I think 10 years ago we were somewhere in the 36 range. So the schedule in recruiting has changed so much that it's forced so much more of a commitment in your time. And no one's complaining here. I'm just giving an answer to the question about the month of June now is a balancing act between camps and recruiting. What I think is unique about Louisiana and LSU is the players in state. First of all, there are great players in state, and we have to identify them all and recruit them well. But if we do that, they'll come to LSU. Other schools I've been to, Notre Dame in particular, I had to go to a particular state and pull the best player out of that state. That's a lot harder than being in Louisiana and being the flagship university. And if you recruit that young man the right way, like you're supposed to, he wants to be a Tiger.
Front row on the right.
Hey, Coach, Kyle Henderson, Bama Football on YouTube. Yeah. Last year, I know last year doesn't matter to this year, but when you beat Alabama football, it certainly matters. How can that win last year in overtime continue to catapult your program and your trajectory going forward?
Yeah, I was asked that question earlier. Look, Alabama and Georgia are the benchmark for what we're looking for. And what is that in particular? It's consistency in performance year in, year out. We did it one time. So we're not in that conversation at this point. So what we're hoping that it catapults us to is a more consistent football program that is competing for championships year in and year out. We don't want any dips in our programs at all. And I think when you look at it from a tangible standpoint, what it did for us is it helps us in recruiting that we don't have to paint a narrative that's not true. In other words, that we can say, look, we're going to compete with Alabama. We're going to be able to beat Alabama. It's not a fantasy, it's a reality. And so there is some tangible evidence there that you can use in recruiting, but the rest of it is really about it giving you momentum for consistency in performance.
Left side, front row, and then we're going to the third row. Go ahead.
Noah Groniger, Starcade Media. You've coached a lot of great schools. What makes LSU stand out and so unique in the college football landscape?
Well, we have great alignment. I think you have to start there. Our president, athletic director, Scott Woodward, Kelly Zinn, our chief officer. I think those things are sometimes missed when you're talking about success of a program. We've got great alignment there. The thing that really, I think, sold me on this position was the resources for the student athletes. We provide our student athletes a championship environment as it relates to nutrition, health care, the ability to receive an education and be supported. All of those things matter when you talk about a successful business or organization, and having the resources, and then being collaborative and cohesive. You know, people ask me all the time about championships at LSU. You know, Kim Mulkey's helping us recruit. Jay's helping us recruit. Those guys are national championship coaches, and they're helping us recruit. So I think that that's important as well, that you have a collaborative and cohesive department.
On the left, third row, and then we'll go to the gentleman in the blue in the back.
Kennedy Wright with CBS 42. Coach, is there a 2-quarterback system foreseeable this upcoming season with Jaden Bridges and Jaden Daniels, and Garrett Nussmeier?
It depends on what you mean by 2-quarterback system. We're not going to rotate them in and out of the game. Everybody has a different opinion as to what that means. We think they're both capable of being starters. Jaden is our starter, and Garrett will be ready, and we'll continue to prepare him. He got first-team reps in the spring. He'll continue to get those first-team reps. We believe we can win a championship with both of them, but what you won't see is one series, this quarterback, and another series, another quarterback. You saw that in the bowl game, which was a different environment than it would be in, say, an in-season situation.
Final 2 questions, back row on the left.
Coach, Commissioner Sankey was kind of talking about the expansion of the league in the other room just a few minutes ago, and I'm curious to know your thoughts on what it means to you, what you think of the conference expanding into with Texas and Oklahoma.
Yeah, so I'm a newcomer to all this. Somebody asked me about East-West, and look, to me, the SEC is about the incredible depth of teams within this conference that are committed to playing championship football. And to add 2 other great programs in Oklahoma and Texas only makes it even better. Is it difficult? Yeah, but that's the SEC. If you want easy, go find another league. To me, this is why I came to the SEC, is to have this kind of competition week in and week out. If they let us play 12 SEC games, I'd play 12. I mean, I really would. And I know that sounds crazy, but to me, it's about playing those games every single week and getting the opportunity to see the kind of teams that we have in the SEC. So I know that's going to be like the front page story. Kelly wants 12. It's tongue-in-cheek. The point is, I love the fact that we can showcase our teams. And any way that we can do that, I think is amazing.
Final question, right side, second row.
Nick Alvarez, AL.com. Brian, what about Tommy Rees's personality, coaching acumen makes him a good fit at Alabama and to be successful in this conference?
I think it starts with played the game at a high level, smart, builds great relationships with his players, and I think he understands the balance of art and science when it comes to play calling. Play calling is not just about analytics. It's just not about tendencies. You got to have a gut feeling. You got to know when to make those calls. He played the position. He knows it. He can balance those 2 things. I hope he has great success every game he plays against until we play him at LSU.
Thank you, Coach.